Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Business Innovators Radio. I am your host, Ralph Brogdon, and today I am with Jon Block. Jon is the founder of Speaker Venture, a national organization of speaker entrepreneurs dedicated to maximizing their profits and changing lives from the stage. Jon has personally mentored over 1,500 entrepreneurs to use public speaking to grow their business and social impact, and Jon has spoken on over 500 stages. So, Jon Block, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Ralph. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, I'm really interested in knowing more about what you do and your work and Speaker Venture. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Speaker Venture is our national organization that's comprised of entrepreneurs who are all using public speaking to grow their businesses and their social impact. One thing I love about it is the caliber of people who are drawn to Speaker Venture, where for us, business is not just a way to make a living. It's not about even closing sales and just converting clients, but it's really about a higher mission. It's about using your business as a force for good on the planet. I think of our clients as Jedis or agents of transformation, and they're all here to do something really positive that makes a discernible before-after difference in people's lives, whether it be around business coaching, whether it be about people's health, whether it be about real estate or lawyers we have come in, but they're all coming from a similar place. There's a vibration to it where they're all called to make a real difference in people's lives. And because of that big calling to make a difference is where they profit tremendously.
Super. Now, how did you get started in doing this? What got you interested in speaking as a modality of transformation?
Yeah, well, way before I mentored 1,500 entrepreneurs in public speaking and got to speak on 500 plus stages, I want to start by saying that I was as far removed from public speaking as you can possibly get. When I was a kid, I remember being 12 years old and getting teased a lot. My mother's Chinese, my father's Jewish, and I looked exotic and different from other kids. And so I got teased a lot for this. And I was also a shy kid, so I thought about things a lot. So I was in my head, and it was awkward talking to the other kids. So I spent a lot of lunches by myself. So as I was thinking, well, what do I want to do with my life? I decided that I was going to be a writer. And the major reason for it was that I enjoyed being by myself. I was clearly one of those people that was meant to be by myself.
I think you and I could be twins, because that's exactly the way I feel.
Yeah, and I just want to hit this on the head because people have this notion that to do what we do, Ralph, that you have to be this big extrovert personality. And I found that the big extrovert personalities are some of the lousiest speakers out there because they haven't spent enough time thinking about things. They're just running their mouth all the time, and they think, oh, I should be on stage talking since I love talking so much. It's like, no, it's really about quality more than quantity, having something worthwhile to say. For me, I determined at the time that writing was going to be the path for me, and I went to USC Film School and tried to break into Hollywood. And ultimately, I quit because as many near misses as I had, it just got to be so frustrating trying to break in. And that's where my passion for entrepreneurship really got ignited, where I was sick of the gatekeepers telling me what I can and cannot do. Oh, you can have a career, but you can't. It just seems so off to me to be giving my power away. That's the languaging I would now use for it at the time. I just didn't like the setup at all. And at the same time, I got really into personal growth and was recognizing that a lot of my mindset issues were getting in the way, a lot of my victim mode stuff, a lot of I'm not a success, and therefore that means certain things about me. I'm not meant to be successful. I'm a money repellent. Those are some notions that I had about myself that I was aware that going to seminars could help with. And when I went to the seminars, some magical things transpired. One is I met the woman who became my wife, which is really wonderful. Ronnie is my rock. We just celebrated 3 years of marriage recently.
Awesome.
Another thing that happened is that I got clear that I was here to transform lives and to make my life about something bigger than, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to be a writer or some other title. It was really about transforming lives. And that's what really put me on the path. With the speaking part, it got clear to me that if I was here on a mission to transform lives, that if you consider the biggest human game changers, the biggest historical figures, whether it's Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, personally, I put Oprah Winfrey in that same category. They've all used public speaking to spread their impact. If you really think about it, you cannot separate their impact on humanity from their public speaking. It's just an inexorable part of the package. And so that's what made sense to me to dedicate my life to both speaking as well as empowering speakers if I was going to have the best shot at transforming lives.
That's really inspiring. And so you have personally worked with over 1,500 entrepreneurs to help them become better public speakers. So you've probably seen a lot of mistakes that people make. What are some of the biggest mistakes that speakers make from the stage based on your experience and work?
I would say the universal mistake, and I'm reluctant to use the word mistake because it is just so human that we don't want to patronize anyone by calling it a mistake, but it is something that gets in the way, and that's the fear of speaking. And what's important is to really get curious about this fear rather than just doing the automatic thing of saying, well, I have a fear, therefore I'm not meant to do it. But a friend of mine has a quote that fear is the only thing that gets smaller the more you run towards it. I believe that's the quote. And so you have to run towards that fear, and it gets smaller and smaller, unlike anything else that gets bigger when you run towards it. And the thing with fear to transform, and there's definitely a whole section we could do about this, but what it comes down to for me is that it's a misdirection of what your focus should be on, that you're directed on yourself. And whenever you do that, I find that life gets a lot less interesting and it's limited inherently in what you can create. Rather than focusing on yourself, if you can focus on the people in that room and get really fascinated with what their lives are like and fascinated with what their lives could be, if you can get really passionate and excited about that, which for anyone, if you really linger on that, you will get excited about that, your speaking will get immeasurably better because it's suddenly exciting to be up there. It's not fearful because this, and I believe this is true of our businesses and in many ways our lives, the greatest fulfillment is when we don't make it about ourselves, we really make it about others and our relationships with others. That's where we really come alive.
You know, that's so true. And that makes a lot of sense. If you can get out of yourself and really focus on other people, that passion, I think, that you can tap into kind of overwhelms all the fear. It's like when you're trying to court someone, you may be afraid, but the passion of wanting to connect with this other person is so great that it really overwhelms all the fear. But you have to do as you say and learn how to get out of yourself and get focused on your audience, focus on the people that you're there to serve. Does that tend to create the transformation and the shift in people that seem to be struggling until they get that shift in their mind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say related to that is the judgment factor, that everything is energy. So we're all connected on some level. And so certainly a room full of people who are looking at you for an hour, you're going to be very connected to them energetically. And you as the leader set the tone for the relationship. So if you're up there judging yourself And that's where the fear comes from, is judging yourself. I'm going to screw it up because I screwed up all the previous times. Then this is going to be another screw up of mine, whatever your flavor of self-judgment is. Well, then guess what your audience is going to be doing? They're going to be in judging mode as well. And they'll be either judging themselves and most likely judging you as well, because that's what you're doing while you're up there. Rather, if you were to be excited to be with this audience and so passionate and engaged in what's going on with them, then you set the tone for them to be so excited to be with you and passionate about what's going on with you. And hence, when you make an offer at the end, you are very likely to succeed because they are so passionately engaged from the very get-go, such that when you say, hey, here's how we continue the party, a lot of those people are going to come on board.
Mm. Now, what's one thing that a listener, someone listening to this, thinking, okay, this makes sense, but what's one thing that they could do right now and begin to see some immediate improvement in either their speaking or their stage presence? What would you suggest as far as maybe like a ninja hack or something?
There's a few major distinctions that are unique to Speaker Venture that I'll happily give here. One would be slow way down. We say that when you're on stage, consider each word that you're saying to the audience being worth $5,000. And what that does is it makes you think, well, if I'm giving $5,000 per word to the audience, it better be worth it. It better be worth it in terms of the impact, better be worth it in our speak to sell world here, meaning that you're looking to create clients every time you're on stage. It better be worth it from a sheer ROI standpoint. And when you slow way down, it forces you to be that much more conscious of the impact of your speaking, of each word carrying that weight of $5,000. And then hence your audience, again, you're the leader. They'll follow you. They'll assign each word to being worth $5,000. Not consciously, but on some level, they'll assign a higher value to each word. Hence, when you make an offer at the end, then that's inherently more valuable than if you had just more or less rushed through it and just let your mind ramble and let your lips flap the entire hour. It's not like as much weight when you make an offer at the end.
That really resonates with me. My favorite all-time speaker is Winston Churchill. And it's not because he's got this dynamic stage presence. It's not because he's the fastest, most charismatic person, but the weight of his ideas and the way they come across very slowly, very deliberately. It's the deliberation, I think, that makes his speeches very weighty. And he would spend hours and hours toiling over just the right words to use. And I think you made a good point earlier about people being in such a hurry to speak, in such a hurry to express themselves that they mistake speaking quickly for speaking well.
Absolutely. And there's this fear perhaps of not being engaging enough, and so that could lead to going quickly. I love the Winston Churchill example, Ralph. And another great one is Barack Obama. Where if you want to get a real clear snapshot of why he got elected president twice, watch his speeches. And you'll see the deliberate nature with which he communicates, such that he is able to cut through every audience's the varied backgrounds, perceptions of him, whatever it was that might have stopped them from connecting with him. He was able to cut through that largely through the pacing of his speaking. So that's one there, is a $5,000 per word. I would like to give you another one, which we call the 3H rule. The 3 H's stand for head, heart, and humor. You want to hit all three of those across your presentation, where the head part is your expertise. You have to know what you're talking about. Just like Winston Churchill has to have real insight and strength of his ideas, that is the head part. You can't go up there and just make it without having real deep penetrating insight into whatever you're talking about. So there's a real intelligence that must be communicated. That's the first H. The second is the heart, where you must show how much you truly care about your audience. And for me, I don't hesitate to say I love every audience that I present to. For me, it's a gift. It's a privilege that I get to spend this time with them, one that I hold sacred and I'll never take for granted. It doesn't matter how many thousands of stages I speak on. It's a privilege every single time, and I have a real love for them and their decision to be here with me. So that out caring will make you stand out so much more, especially since so many speakers can get frozen and stuck in their head about things. Certainly as they're newer at it, they can be frozen in their head and we feel no heart whatsoever. Or they can be really experienced and have lots of success, and it's their ego that is running things, and there can be no heart in that either.
Yeah.
So that's where we must truly outcare every other speaker the audience has ever seen. That's the heart piece. And the third H is humor. And that's where it has to be fun to be with you. That I use the word party for a reason. It should feel like a really good time that people want to stick around for. And there's a lot to be said about humor, but here I think is the most important point. You don't have to be a stand-up comic. You don't have to be this guy who knows 100 jokes and can just pull anyone out at a given moment. That puts incredible pressure on you and actually can be very inauthentic and forced. The greatest humor comes from, and you can check in for yourself if you're listening to this, when you're with someone that you feel very comfortable around, whether it's your spouse or whether it's your close friends and you're just around the dinner table. My sense is that your sense of humor probably comes out pretty easily in those situations. And the people who know you best will think you're actually very funny. Mm-hmm. And consider that that's how you want to show up when you're on stage as well. Like you are at a dinner party with your really close friends, and it's just this very authentic version of you. And because you're so relaxed and enjoying yourself, that's where your humor can come out. And with that, your audience will feel the most connected to you authentically and will be called to say yes to whatever you offer them.
I'm speaking with Jon Block. He is the founder of Speaker Venture, which is a national organization of speaker entrepreneurs dedicated to maximizing their profits and changing lives from the stage. Jon, I wanted to ask, we've talked about so many different factors, but I'm curious, what really makes a presentation truly captivating? How do we really reach out, engage that audience, and really grab them with the head, the heart, the humor, and these different things? But is there something that really can captivate an audience and persuade them in the direction that you want them to go?
For me, it comes down to, and I'm reluctant to use this word because it's so overdone that it'd be easy to dismiss it as cliched, but the word is authenticity. Mm-hmm. What it comes down to specifically in the speaking context is to be you, only bigger. Now, the word charisma, people have a certain notion of what that looks like. Maybe George Clooney is the image that someone might have of that. And the problem with assigning a specific image to charisma is that it exists outside ourselves, and it's too easy to say, well, I'm not that. Consider that we're all very charismatic in our own unique way, and the extent to which we own our uniqueness is what makes us charismatic to others. And so knowing that we all have the three H's, the head, heart, and humor, they're all implicit to us that when you get us talking about something that we know a lot about, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's movies, whatever our thing is, that we have a lot of head that we can come from that. In addition to that, the heart as well, like that passion, that truly caring about it can come through. And the humor as well is inevitably part of it. That's when you're really at your best, when audiences are most captivated by you. So it does come down to finding an area of expertise that you're really excited about, that you can just go on and on and on about, and you have the expertise, the heart, the humor is all there for you. I would say if you were to align yourself with that, then your presentations will be captivating.
That's really good advice, and I'm already looking for ways that I can incorporate this into my presentations and things that I do. Well, tell me, you probably have a lot going on with all the people that you're coaching and mentoring, but what are you working on right now that's got you really excited?
Mm. Well, first I'll share that my passion is the power of communication, being able to bridge any differences between people. That's my overall stand in the world, my commitment to humanity, how I've dedicated my life. And my belief is that when we really go to work on our speaking and our listening, that we are able to bridge any divides, whether it's between countries, whether it's between cultures, whether it's between family members. We're able to bridge that. Now, the specific business focus for me is with Speaker Venture, and that's really bridging the gaps that exist between potential client and speaker. Right? That's the primary focus of it. And there's other things we work on regarding networking, for instance, like the gaps that can exist between people when they just meet each other at a networking event. How do you create connection that leads to business being generated? The primary way, though, when it comes to this, you might think of Speaker Venture as the offline marketing experts, where it's not for us about how to have webinars and fancy opt-in pages, but it's really about the in-person relationships. So if you go to networking events, if you can see yourself speaking on stages, this is what we put our stake in the ground as being the best at. So we have live events that are dedicated to this, 3-day live events we host in both Denver and San Diego. And if you've resonated with anything I've shared, and if you believe that there's something worth exploring, then I invite you to connect with us. And the easiest way to do that would be just to email me. And I'll just give you my personal email, and you can reach out directly, and then we'll take it from there. And that's john@speakerventure.com. That's JON at SPEAKERVENTURE, speakerventure.com. And just mention Ralph in this podcast and that you're interested in attending one of our live events, and we can get you set up with that. What we cover at the live events is your presentations from stage. It is around the networking. So inside the presentations piece, which is a key part of it, the personal story that you're uniquely meant to share from stage that resonates with audiences and gets them to the point where they know they have to work with you. The content, so what is your unique expertise that you're meant to bring out into the world? And then the offer piece, which is creating a compelling call to action that is really irresistible for audiences. We also dive into how to get on stages, how to host your own events. We have a very collaborative environment that happens at these live events that results in people making not just new business opportunities and opportunities to get on more stages, but really friends for life that happen at our live events. So if any of that resonates with you, I invite you to email me and get connected.
That's really exciting, and I think this is really needed in business and with entrepreneurs to be able to take their message and to communicate it effectively from the stage. You have really shared so many great tidbits and words of wisdom. Before we leave, I wonder if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us.
Yes. I'll say that, well, one thing I want to give as a gift, and then I'll share some final thoughts. So in addition to emailing me, if you'd like to get connected to one of our live events and see if it's the right fit for you, please do email me, john@speakerventure.com. The other thing that I neglected to mention was the gift is our template for our signature talk, which is effectively our Bible that we use for our clients every single time they get up on stage. This is the step-by-step guide for crafting a presentation that, when properly applied, you can earn $10,000 or more from stage. So I like to give you that gift of the template, the step-by-step guide. And to access that, you can go to speakerventure.com/gifts, GIFTS. My final thoughts to share with you, if you're listening to this, is to really get that the world needs you to step up. There might be fears you have about it. There might be concern of, I'm not an expert enough. Who am I? I've had XYZ failures. I'm still in my low point right now. How can I possibly empower anyone? I've been there, right? That's how I know that these are some of the common thoughts, and you might have a whole slew of others that I didn't name. And consider that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. What matters is that there are people who are in a lot of pain right now. What matters is that the world at large, in many ways, just does not work. It does not work. And the people who are going to empower humanity and create a world that works for everyone will be the people listening to this podcast. It will be the people who are asking those deeper questions and who are feeling this stir within them to create a movement, to empower others. My sincerest request, whether we never speak again at all or if we end up working together, either way, please do answer that call. Step up. The world needs your leadership.
Very inspiring. I've been speaking with Jon Block. He is the founder of Speaker Venture. You can connect with him at speakerventure.com. Jon, thanks so much for being on the program today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.